Hello class. So as I was going through grading case 1, I noticed that there were some issues with dealing with histograms and generating frequency bins and calculating the cumulative percentage. So I'm going to go over that and briefly cover those in Excel. There are always questions regarding value-added services in online classes, and I'm always looking for opportunities to lend my professional expertise such as it is, so here we go. Now, in Excel, there are always a number of avenues to solving problems or answering data questions using Excel. I am going to show you two ways to generate the underlying data for the histogram and cumulative percentage charts. I'm going to do one example the hard way, hand calculating it, and then I will show you what I consider to be a far easier method. These are not exhaustive. There are numerous ways to do this. The easy method that I show you may or may not be the best method, but I find it to be effective, so you can take that from there. So we're going to get started. So first, I am going to create a sample set. I could use the data that is in the case, but that would be giving things away a little bit, and I don't really want to do that. So I'm going to create my own. Some of this stuff is a little inside baseball, if you will. You are not expected to know this, but if you ever need to, for whatever reason, generate a normalized random set of numbers, here you go. So I'm using the mean and the standard deviation roughly from the case. So that's where these numbers are coming from. Basically what this is doing, oops, oh, need a number in here. There we go. So what this is doing is it's generating a random sample between values that equal the mean and the standard deviation, and that should roughly generate the numbers that I need. I'm going to go ahead and put all of this into number format. There we go. Okay, now I have my sample size. So the first thing I need to do is I need to calculate the bin that this number is going to go in, because I don't want to individually look at each of these numbers and say, well, how many times did 1.48 occur? I don't care how many times 1.48 occurred, but I do care how many times numbers between 1.45 and 1.49 occurred. So that's what I'm going to do here. And the easiest way to do that is to use a formula called ceiling. And what ceiling does is it rounds a number up, as you can see, to the nearest multiple of significance, which you can dictate. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say ceiling of this number. And because we're at two decimal points or two digits of significance, I'm going to put in 0.05, and that will round everything up to either 0.0 or 0.05, as the case may be. So there you go. So what I'm doing here, I don't know how deep I need to go into that. When I paste down, so I'm going to do this here. I have my formula here. You can do it a number of ways. You can hit the little plus, the little dot there, and it will fill the formula down all the way. I find that to be effective sometimes. I like to generally hit Control arrow, go to the bottom of the sample, then select up and hit Control D. That way I know there are no gaps in my sample over here. If you're very trusting, which I am not, then you can just hit the dot and it will fill the formula down. However, as I said, I'm not super trusting. Okay, so now we have our bins, and you can sort these largest to smallest however you want. However, I'm going to do something a little easier just to get to the data that I want. So I'm actually going to copy this data here. I'm going to paste special so that I just get the values. And then I am going to come over here to data, and I'm going to say remove my duplicates. It says, do you want to expand? I don't. I just want this list. Remove duplicates. That's the column. Hit OK. Boom. There you go. And now you can sort this smallest to largest. Again, I'm going to continue. So there you go. 1.25, 1.3, 1.45. Very easy, sort of, if you sort of follow along with the steps. So again, that was the ceiling formula to get the particular bins. You select the significance or the level of granularity that you want, and then you can paste that and remove the duplicates, filter. And again, this is sort of the basic steps that you would have to do if you're going to do this by hand. Again, I will show you a slightly easier method. So the next thing we need to do is get the frequency of the numbers that appear in each of these bins. So I want to know, numbers that were 1.21 to 1.25. And then I want numbers that are 1.26 to 1.30, and numbers that are 1.31 to 1.35, etc., etc. So to do that, I'm going to use a COUNTIF function. So this counts the number of cells in a range that meet a specific condition. I'm going to give it the condition, right? And the condition is that I want this range, or this range, it doesn't matter. But I want numbers in this range. And since I don't want this range to move every time that I use it, I'm going to lock in those cell numbers. Okay? So that's the range. And now I get to specify the criteria. And the criteria that I want are numbers that are less than or equal to, and then I have to use my little and sign here, this number. Right? So I want less than or equal to those specific numbers. That's really what I want. Then I need to, so that's what I get, which is great. But then I actually need to take away some numbers, because this is going to give me everything that's less than or equal to, but I also need to get rid of everything that doesn't meet that criteria, right? So I'm going to count if again, and it's the same stuff. And now I want things that are, whoops, what happened? Less than there we go. So that's the formula. So I have, if I went in here and I looked and I were to sort this data, yeah, let me do that just for giggles. Okay, so I have one item that is between 1.21 and 1.25. I have one item that is between 1.26 and 1.30. And I have 7 items between 1.31 and 1.35. So that's, you can sort of see, there's my frequency distribution. I get a nice little distribution out of that, which is fantastic. Okay, I'm going to put this back into alpha order here. Now we need to calculate the percentage, which is relatively easy. We have a sum here. This frequency should add up to 150, which, if I do the auto sum here, 150. So that's what it should add up to. So getting the percentage is a relatively straightforward formula. So I want it to round, so I don't really want a whole, well, we can do that. So let's see, we can do this divided by the sum, and I want all of these, but I don't want this, when I paste this formula down, I don't want these to move, so I'm going to lock them in. that's sort of small. So there are my percentages. Now I could have, I could do that, say, okay, let me get it to 1 decimal place or 2 decimal places. It doesn't matter a whole lot. We'll put it at 1. So for cumulative percentage, now we just have to add all of these going up, right? So I can just say, I want, that's easy enough. Then I want this plus the sum of that. Actually, I really want it to be J2 to J2. And I really want to lock that as the top. So as I go down, you'll notice that this increments till we get to 100. Boom, boom, boom. There we go. And that's it. That is cumulative percentage. And that's what you would use when you were generating graphs. So this would be your base data that you would use to generate a graph, which, fine. That was a lot of steps. That was a lot of formulas to enter. It's kind of a pain in the butt. Fortunately, there's an easier way. And here we go. The easy way with your buddy, the pivot table. All right. So we have the bins already in the base data. So I'm going to pop that down. There we go. And then I'm going to put those over here. And I'm going to say, well, I don't really want to sum those. I really just want to count those because I want to get the frequency. And then I'm going to drag bin down again, and I get the sum of bin. Now, here's a gotcha. So in order to do cumulative percentage, you could come in here, go to value settings, and go to show value as, and we're actually going to be looking for a running total in, specifically percentage running total in. So this is that gotcha. So if we come in here and if I put these down to the whole number, I get 1, 1, 5, 20, 33. Wait a minute. That's not what's showing here. It says 1, 1, 6, 22. So did I do my calculations wrong over here? Or is something happening over here? And the deal is, because I'm using count here, I also need to use count here in order to be consistent. I can't use sum. So I actually have to change that to count. And there we go. Lo and behold, we have the correct cumulative percentage. So now I have my figures, and I'm just going to go ahead and put together a chart. Go to pivot chart. I need a combo. I want a cluster column and a line. That's great. Of course, I want my line to actually be on its own axis so that it looks like that. Fantastic. I don't need to see all of these, so I'm going to hide the field buttons on the chart. Orange is fine, but maybe I want it to be red, so I will change it to red. And there you go. Now you have a nice histogram, a nice cumulative percentage line on that chart, and that is all you need. So that covers it. Again, 2 ways to do it. There's the hand method and writing out a lot of formulas, or there is, again, what I consider to be a far easier method, which is the pivot table method. And there you have it. If you have any questions, please feel free to email me or contact me on the forum. Thank you.